All right, guys. So today we're gonna this is a relapse prevention group number 6. All right, and it's managing high risk situations. All right. So the first thing is we want to discuss is our definition of relapse, which is the process of becoming dysfunctional in your recovery, in which you convince yourself to return to addiction. All right. And so this ties in perfectly with managing high risk situations, because if you do not learn to manage your high risk situations, you are going to continue down the road of dysfunctional recovery, and you will relapse at some point in the future, guaranteed. All right. So it's important to understand that relapse is really more than just about using drugs and alcohol, right? It's about the process that leads you down this path of dysfunctional recovery, right? And draws you closer and closer to relapse, all right? And to the point of where you will actually convince yourself that you need to return to your addiction, that that's actually the best choice for you in that time and in that moment. All right, so that's what we want to avoid. And it all starts with managing high risk situations, right? So that's what we're going to talk about today. All right. So, in your role play, all right, step one, you will develop your title and you will develop your 3 scenarios, your 3 high risk situations. All 3 of those, as we talked about in the last week's group, that they end in relapse. All right. So today, we're going to figure out the next step, which is creating your exit points, right? That's basically how you manage your high risk situations, by creating exit points to help you to escape from these high risk situations before it leads to relapse. All right. So last week we talked about the illustration of Interstate 66 being basically a high risk situation, right? And DC represents relapse. And if you do nothing, as we did in step 1, you end up in DC, you end up in relapse. All right, but there's another way, and that's what we're going to talk about today, which is step 2, right? So as you're driving down I-66, there are different exit points all along the way, right? Exit 6 is Front Royal. Exit 18 is, I believe, Linden. Exit 43 is around Manassas. So all along the way, you can choose an exit and get off 66, not go to DC, and go someplace different, right? And so that's essentially what an exit point is. If it's wanting to take you out of that situation and take you someplace safe so that you don't end up relapsing, right? So that's essentially what we're going to do today, all right? So kind of have a group activity, right? So the group activity is you get invited to a cookout, and you know that your old using buddies are going to be there, but you attend anyways, right? Once you get there, all you can think about is using again. So what do you do, right? So usually when I'm there in person, we do a discussion on this. We write the answers up on the board, right? And so we got to do this in a different way today. So some of the correct, or some of the answers that are given, right? Usually the first one is people will leave, right? This another answer that is pretty typical that people give, clients give, is call your sponsor. Another answer is ask someone to go with you. Another answer that's pretty typical is talk about your feelings with a network member. Another answer is go to a meeting. Another answer is pray for help. Another answer that I've gotten in the past is tell them that you're in recovery. Another answer is don't go. All right. So those are just some of the common answers that clients give. All right. And so what we're going to do is we're going to evaluate a lot of these answers. And as we begin this evaluation process, um, it's best to look at it as a scale, right, of very bad to very good. All right. And so what I'm going to teach you today is all the way over here, all which is very good. It's the safest answer to give, right? The safest, absolute safest answer to give, right? And some of these others might be all the way down the line to very bad. All right. So first thing we needed to do to evaluate these exit points is to look at the key elements of decision point management, right? That's essentially what an exit is. It's a decision point. There's a point in time where you need to make a decision to manage that high risk situation. So it's called decision point management. It's a fancy term for just simply saying an exit point, right? So the first thing is that your exit needs to exit you from the high risk situation, right? That sounds pretty common, right? If you're developing an exit, it needs to exit you from the situation. All right. However, this messes up a lot of people. I still get maps today that people create high risk situation exit points and they stay in the situation, right? So if you're developing an exit point, it has to remove you from the high risk situation. That's the goal, is to leave the high risk situation so that you don't relapse, right? You don't want to stay in there. You want to get the heck out of there, right? And so that starts right here with exiting the high risk situation, all right? And it's just simply, it's got to take you out of the situation, right? So if you're at a Super Bowl party, you need to get out of there and go someplace completely different, right? Because if you stay here, you're going to continue down the path of relapse, right? And so you want to get out of here and go over here, right? So that might be going to an AA Super Bowl party versus Uncle Ray Ray's Super Bowl party, right? So that's the first key element, is it has to remove you from the high risk situation so that you're no longer there. Get out, run away, get as far away from there as you possibly can, right? The second key element is when you exit, do not exit alone, right? When you exit, do not exit alone, right? So the sample high risk situation that we give you, a guy goes over to mom's house for dinner, right? He's a little nervous because he used to drink with dad. And so he goes there, he walks in the door, dad sees him, comes into the living room, offers him a beer. He says no, but he really wanted to take a drink, right? And so then they eat dinner. He eats dinner with mom and dad, and then he leaves, right? So basically he's good, right? He went into the high risk situation and then he left on his own. Well, then what does he do? He needs to get gas, so he stops at the gas station on the way home, and while he's getting gas, he goes in and gets a 6-pack of beer. He takes the beer home and he drinks it, and he now relapses, right? So this is an illustration of the dangers of exiting alone, right? Exiting alone. That the reason that it's a danger is because, so this is our normal state of feelings and being, right? You know, we're normal. We're not excited. We're not upset. We're okay. We're thinking with our rational mind, right? We're making good decisions. But then you get into a high risk situation, is what happens? Your stomach starts flipping, your mind starts racing. You maybe start feeling a certain way, and you start thinking about, man, a beer would taste really good about now, right? So what's happening is you were down here, now you're up here. Your feelings are elevated. You're probably beginning to think with your irrational mind than your rational mind. So you're thinking out of impulse, instinct, just kind of survival mode kind of thing. You're not making good, smart decisions. And this is the danger, right? This is the danger zone for relapse. And so even if you leave, right, and go over here, your feelings are still elevated, right? So you're over here at Uncle Ray Ray's party, but now you're over here in your house by yourself, right? But your feelings are still escalated. And so you're still not making smart decisions. You're still not making thinking decisions. You're thinking with your irrational mind. You're still experiencing the same stuff that you were over here. It's just that now you're over here, right? And so the danger is that because you're alone, you can still end up relapsing, just as the person did in the sample, where he stopped at a gas station, got gas, and then he went and bought a six-pack and took it home and drank, right? So that's the danger, right? So what we want you to do is to leave with somebody, right? So that you're not alone. And what happens is you're at Uncle Ray Ray's Super Bowl party, right? You now meet up with somebody and you leave, and now you're over here together, right? And so we want you to remain with that person until your feelings return to normal again. And then when they return to normal, you return to thinking with your rational mind. You're not experiencing the addictive thoughts that you were. Your stomach is not flipping anymore. Then this is the time when it's safe to be alone, right? And so this is where a lot of people go wrong, right? Because they think that they can handle it all on their own, but you can't, right? You need help. And so we want you to get into the pattern of relying on people to help you,